You've probably seen the headlines: cash handouts, 50-year mortgages, and the military taking over our skies. On their own, they look like random stories, but together, they tell a very different tale. Of course, the legacy media will never make the connection, but that's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. And we're kicking things off with the biggest story of them all. The one about those $2,000 stimulus dividend tariff checks that just got announced.
President Trump says Americans could soon receive a $2,000 payment, crediting his tariff policies for boosting the country's wealth.
Now, everyone's losing their minds over this Truth Social post and hyping it up like it's some huge announcement. But here's the thing, nobody's actually telling the full story. You see, this isn't the first time the president's talked about some kind of dividend this year, not even close.
Sir, Elon Musk is proposing potentially giving money to Americans based on what Doge is finding. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I love it. A 20% dividend.
Of course, we all know the whole Doge dividend program died right alongside Elon Musk's role in this administration. But the president still seems dead set on sharing some of that tariff money with every American.
I mean, there's a concept of making you could call it a dividend, as we would say, making a dividend to the people in this country who have had to suffer through stupid leadership. And they paid a lot of taxes and they got nothing for it. Or they got attacked like you were, okay, for it. No, there's a possibility. Primarily we want to pay down debt, but there's a possibility that we take a piece of it and make a dividend to the people.
A lot of people hate this idea. After all, we've seen how stimulus checks can totally backfire. But honestly, that's not even the real problem here. You see, the people who actually have the power to approve those rebates, they've already made it clear that we're not getting any checks.
The $2,000 dividend could come in lots of forms, in lots of ways, George. It could be just the tax decreases that we are seeing on the president's agenda.
You might be wondering why I'm saying Scott Bessent has more authority on this issue than the president himself. Well, let me explain. Scott's a former hedge fund manager who used to work for George Soros and even donated to the Democratic Party. And yet, despite his controversial past, he was handpicked by this administration. Why? Because he represents the banks and the big investors. Basically, the people who own most of the country, including our politicians on both sides of the aisle. I'm sure you remember when the president was excited about the idea of showing everyone what's inside Fort Knox.
We're going to go into Fort Knox to make sure the gold is there.
Are they going to?
You know that we're going to go into Fort Knox. Do you know about that?
Sir,
That was a bad bump.
Are they going to eliminate more national security positions, civilians there?
We'll see what happens. But one of the things we do want to look, I mean, we hope everything's fine with Fort Knox, but we're going to go to Fort Knox, the fabled Fort Knox, to make sure the gold is there.
Where would the gold have gone?
If the gold isn't there, we're going to be very upset.
Yeah, that didn't last long. That whole conversation ended almost instantly after Scott Bessent stepped in, basically telling everyone, don't worry about it.
We do an audit every year. I can tell the American people on camera right now that there was a report September 30th, 2024. All the gold is there. Any U.S. senator who wants to come and visit it can arrange a visit.
You guys often ask why we stopped talking about Fort Knox. Well, now you know. As for those dividend stimulus checks, according to Scott Bessent, we might still see that money, just not as direct payments. Instead, he's talking about more tax cuts and rebates. And honestly, I'm all for that.
And over time, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. So, those are substantial deductions that, are being financed in the tax bill.
I just hope this time they don't forget about our seniors because, let's face it, they're the ones who usually get left out when tax breaks roll around. And since we're already on the topic of the government handing out money, we've got to talk about President Trump's new healthcare proposal. In another Truth Social post, he said the U.S. should stop spending tens of billions on Obamacare subsidies and instead send that money directly to the people who actually need it.
The president posted what he called a recommendation to Senate Republicans that the hundreds of billions of dollars currently being sent to money-sucking insurance companies be sent directly to the people.
As soon as he made that post, a bunch of Republican senators started talking about it too.
Now, I'm pleased to say that this morning the president posted on Truth Social calling on Congress to redirect subsidies from insurance companies directly to Americans so that they can purchase their own health care. Now, there's a lot of words there, but just start at the top. Donald J. Trump recommending two Senate Republicans, that hundreds of billions of dollars being sent to insurance companies go directly to the people.
And honestly, on paper, it sounds pretty good. If people could choose their own insurance and buy across state lines, it might finally push these companies to lower their insane rates. I mean, we've all seen how ruthless and shady insurance companies can be.
So I don't normally jump on that health insurance is a scam, but today it is absolutely a scam and I swear it's fraud. I need an MRI on my back because I hurt my back. My clinic sent it over to a hospital. They ran it through my insurance. They called me and said, hey, your portion of it that you're going to have to pay after insurance is $5,100 for this MRI. So I'm like, wow, okay. I was like, before we do that, just wait, because I'm like, $5,100 just seems wild. I called another place who was also waiting for my insurance to go through to see how much it was going to be. My insurance was still on hold with them, but I asked them, hey, if I just cash pay this, how much is it going to cost for this MRI? And they're like, well, if you just want to cash pay it, not run anything through insurance, it's $700. And so I'm like, sounds a lot better than $5,100. So I called the original hospital back and said, hey, if I don't run this through insurance, what is the cost if I just decide to self-pay it, since I know the other place is $700? The lady's like, I'll rerun it under you being self-pay and I'll call you back with your total. So a few minutes go by, the lady calls me back and she goes, hey, I talked to my supervisor. Since you have insurance, we are not going to let you self-pay it, so we won't give you that number.
Now, sure, this plan doesn't directly help the greedy insurance providers, but let's not forget, once that money lands in millions of health savings accounts, the banks are the ones cashing in. And here's the problem. Even if the idea sounds great, it'll take forever for Republicans to actually pass something like this. Meanwhile, people who rely on Obamacare subsidies are already hearing that their premiums are about to go through the roof.
When those tax credits go away, those Texans that were able to come into the market and get that affordable coverage, they're going to find that their coverage is now a lot more expensive, in most cases about double.
More than 100,000 Iowans rely on the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, for health care coverage.
Without those subsidies, people are going to be paying full price, and that can range anywhere, and this is just an estimate, per person, $800 to $1,200 per month.
Even Republican lawmakers are starting to realize this could hurt their own voters. That's why more of them are finally talking about doing something. Anything to fix this healthcare mess.
People are getting their renewal notices. Their premiums are doubling. So I'm saying we need to deal with that now, because otherwise number one, it's the right thing to do, just morally. Number two, we're going to get killed. We have to win the midterms. It's going to be a hell of a hard thing to do. And if people are just struggling with their health care, it's not going to help us.
While that conversation was heating up, the president dropped another post. And this one, well, it was shocking to say the least. You see, he hinted at the idea of 50-year mortgages. Now, at first, I thought, like most people, that he was just thinking out loud. One of his spur-of-the-moment ideas. But now the housing director has confirmed it. They're actually working on this plan. And let me tell you why this is a horrible idea. Just take a look at this. At a 6.25% mortgage rate, you'd pay around $730,000 in interest on a $600,000 home with a 30-year mortgage. Stretch that to 50 years and you're paying $1.36 million in interest. Absolutely insane. Sure, your monthly payment drops a bit from $3,694 to $3,270, but if you focused on that, you would totally miss the point. I've been saying this for a while now. They're slowly taking away our ability to own homes. First, they used the pandemic to push prices through the roof. And while most young people can't even dream of buying a home, Wall Street keeps gobbling them up. And we all know what they plan to do with all this real estate.
You know, I do believe we're just at the beginning of the tokenization of all assets, from real estate to equities to bonds, across the board. So we look at that as the next wave of opportunity for BlackRock over the next tens of years, as we start moving away from traditional financial assets by repotting them in a digital manner.
Now, even if you manage to buy a home, you'll likely not have enough to afford home insurance, right when biblical floods and record-breaking wildfires are becoming the new normal.
Both banks and insurance companies are pulling out of areas, coastal areas and things like that, or areas where there are a lot of fires. So what that is going to mean is that, if you fast forward 10 or 15 years, there are going to be regions of the country where you can't get a mortgage. There won't be ATMs. There won't, the banks won't have branches and things like that. Right. That's a possibility coming up down the road. It's not that the banks will stay there and keep making loans.
So even if you can't insure your home, you'll still be stuck paying that mortgage for the next 50 years. And all that extra debt, it means more people will be working until the day they die. This might explain why Senator Rand Paul just introduced a bill to raise the retirement age to 70.
Well, with Social Security, you're going to have to start receiving it at a later age, and I've said the age has to go to 70. Now, you could also raise Social Security taxes dramatically. Right now, you pay 15%. You pay 7.5%, and your employer pays 7.5%, but really you pay 15%. Yeah. If you want to pay 25%, you can keep Social Security the way it is.
You have to wonder why he even bothered with this. So many seniors are already working past retirement age just to afford groceries. And if you want to see how bad things have really gotten, look at this man who's working only to cover his property taxes.
On Social Security, 68 years old, and working just to pay my taxes. My property taxes were $895 a year. Now, my property taxes are approaching $8,000 a year over the last couple of years. And so we're paying $700 a month rent to the state to live in our own house.
And sure, they'll say it's just the economy, but don't you forget what they told us. You will own nothing and be happy. And this 50-year mortgage plan is simply another step towards that future. Now, I want to wrap this video up with a strange update about those flight cancellations. As you know, the situation keeps getting worse by the day.
So far, airline cancellations nearing 2,000 today, with more than 6,000 delays. This travel nightmare is expected to get worse this week as airlines prepare to cut even more flights if this shutdown drags on.
Meanwhile, we're seeing more and more military activity popping up along the coasts. And sure, they'll say it's just training, but then you've got people like Pete Hegseth saying stuff like this.
We're not just buying something. We're solving life and death problems for our warfighters. We're not building for peacetime. We are pivoting the Pentagon and our industrial base to a wartime footing. Building for victory should our adversaries FAFO.
I'll let you decide how to take his words. What I really want to show you is what our Secretary of Transportation just shared.
I don't want to see disruption for the American people. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, texted me yesterday and said, I might have some air traffic controllers. If you could use them, I'm going to offer them to you. Now, I don't know that I can, Jake, because they're not certified in the airspaces that we need them. But if I can, I'm going to use them, everyone in this administration.
So wait, you're telling me we could soon have military air traffic controllers running civilian flights? I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Just like it's a coincidence that all these powerful people running this country are suddenly moving into military bases. At this point, no one's blind to what's happening. It just feels like the Pentagon and the defense industry just don't even care about hiding it anymore. They're gonna do whatever they want to do, and we're gonna be the ones paying for it.